Ever since Al Gore invented the internet, people have utilized it to send each other memes. But memes didn't begin with the internet. Richard Dawkins coined the term back in '76, and he says memes are a quintessential part of human experience. And while his opinions are suspect at best due to his British citizenship, it turns out that he was onto something. Memes have been around for forever, and there's some really interesting ones throughout history that I'd like to talk about today. Technically, Dick Dawkins' original definition of memes would include any sort of behavior or cultural practice that is passed from person to person, but if we went with that definition, we'd be here all day. At risk of sounding like I put any thought into these videos, I'm not going to try to make my own definition, but I've been looking at memes for about 2 decades at this point, so you're just going to have to trust that I know them when I see them. You might have heard of this little guy before. During World War II, journalists started to take note of this design, drawn or carved into the walls of Allied encampments and outposts. It features a bald character with a huge nose, presumably modeled after you, peeping over the top of a line, accompanied by the phrase, "Kilroy was here." The character, known as Chad, or like 15 other names, originated in the 1930s in England. But who was Kilroy? Most historians agree that it was this guy, James J. Kilroy. James was an American shipyard inspector who would mark ship components he had approved with "Kilroy was here." American soldiers saw the phrase scrawled on the inside of their transport ships, and the phrase stuck. Or, maybe it was one of the other 40 guys who said it was them. Who's to say? The point is, somebody eventually combined the drawing with the phrase, and World War II's second most popular meme was created. Kilroy's impact has expanded well beyond villages in France, appearing in various cartoons and television shows, and being used as a character in works by many great artists. A play by Tennessee Williams, a short story by Isaac Asimov, and a horror movie by Kevin Smith that was released as an NFT. No, I'm not kidding. Back before the internet turned everything into a parody of itself, you'd have to intentionally seek out low-quality comedic lambasting in magazine racks instead of just having it sent to you by your strange uncles. The most popular of these magazines was Mad, first published in 1952. Apparently it's still being published today, but the grocery store I go to replaced all their magazine racks with signs warning people to keep their distance from me, so I can't confirm. The magazine is easily identifiable because of this little guy, Alfred E. Newman, a big-eared, big-nosed ginger rascal who's missing a front tooth, presumably modeled after what you would look like if you had hair. The thing is, Mad Magazine didn't actually come up with this character. The design had already been in circulation since at least 1894. The Mad cartoonists had just taken something that they saw somebody else do and slightly reworked it, like some sort of meme. They actually got sued by some chud in the mid-1960s for copyright infringement, and their defensive argument rested on the fact that there were countless examples of the character being used over the years, including, but not limited to, dental adverts, political postcards, and Nazi propaganda. No, I'm not kidding. Even the ancient Romans used to goof around mimetically. They had their fair share of latrine graffiti, but for the more scholarly Roman citizens, simple dick jokes wouldn't satiate their desire for abstract memes. At some point before 62 AD, one of those pre-release Italians created the Sator Square. Latin's a fucking stupid language and I'm glad it's dead. When translated, it comes out to something along the lines of, "The farmer Aripo holds the wheels with care, but when you put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it, holy fucking shit, it's the same thing." But what does it mean? I don't know. But fortunately, neither does anybody else. Maybe it was a word puzzle, or some esoteric reference to Jesus, or something to do with first century Judaism. Even though it kept popping up throughout post-Roman European history, there's never been a consensus among scholars as to what the point of the design was other than looking interesting. So maybe, just maybe, we might be looking at the world's first surrealist meme. But, it's probably a word puzzle. For the less scholarly Roman citizens, simple dick jokes would very much suffice. It was common practice from at least the time of the ancient Greeks for slingers, that is, soldiers who fought with the sling, to decorate their projectiles, or sling bullets, with designs and messages for the enemy. If you were lucky enough not to get brained by one of their missiles, you could pick it up and take a look at what the enemy had to say. For the most part, they'd just be little quips, like "catch" or "watch out," or maybe a little carving of a lightning bolt so the slinger could pretend he was Zeus. When the Romans came onto the scene, there was an increased demand for sling bullets, what with all the military conquest, and manufacturers began selling their own branded projectiles. But during the siege of Perugia, from 41 to 40 BC, a strange pattern emerged amongst each side's slingers. It's unclear who started it, but both the siegers and the siegees started carving classical antiquities equivalent of middle school lunch table jokes onto their projectiles. And while they pale in comparison to some of the things I was carving onto my sling bullets at that age, they're still pretty funny. You've got classics like Greetings, Octavius, You Suck Dick, and Bald Lucius Antonius, Open Up Your Asshole, and of course the all-timer I Seek Octavian's Asshole. My personal favorite has got to be the one that says, Loose Octavius, sit on this, accompanied by a little drawing of a dick. And people say war is antithetical to art. It's good to know that over 2,000 years later, people's taste haven't really evolved at all. So, in conclusion, I guess I don't really have a conclusion for this one. There wasn't really an argument I was trying to make. I just kind of thought these were neat. Anyway, see you in 4 months.